We have to get joy in what we do, because why do it? And be the living example of that, because otherwise people won't want to do what you're suggesting they do.
Nobody, not mom or dad or a grandmother or a grandfather or a big sister or big brother or teachers or doctors or soldiers or reverends or athletes or lawyers or TV stars or any people who are working or any people who are playing, not even the president, not even a king or a queen, not even people who love each other know what a single thing is. It is a great and wonderful mystery to all of us that anything is or that we are. And whether somebody says, I don't know how anything came to be, or God made everything, they are simply pointing to the feeling of the mystery of how everything is, but nobody knows what it really is or how it came to be.
Thank you, Micah, for spending this afternoon with me in Taos, New Mexico. I heard about you through the grapevine, maybe over a year ago. There's this lady in town who serves kids food, and she serves them breakfast and she serves them lunch, and she takes the food to schools. And I don't know how she does it. Everyone didn't know, but they knew that, and they told me your name. So I didn't still know that much about you, except I knew you had to be a good human being to do this work. And so last summer, we started our classes twice a week in our home in Taos, in the Earthship community. And we decided, what could we put this money towards? And we put a big bowl. We explained as much as we knew about your program, but I still had never met you. Then the end of the summer came, and we were having a roundup dinner that night before we took off to start our travels and teaching. And so we invited you to come and handed you the big bowl, I think in an envelope. And that's when I got to see your face and who you were and who you are. And so, Micah, that's why I want you to talk about your journey, and also, how does it make you feel? Why are you driven to do this? You could maybe retire by now. You have grandchildren, and you have, your life is, and at your age, many people would just say, I just need to relax now. I need to go fishing. What keeps you going? What? Tell me, just talk to us about you.
Well, I have to say that the mountain light and the beautiful river and all of the beauty of nature and of children, that connection, I think, is what has really driven me probably my whole life. And to, like here in Taos, there is a really strong history here. The land is very alive, and I believe it's alive everywhere where anyone lives. And there is a tradition here of agriculture, and I got interested very early on. I wasn't raised as a farmer, but as soon as I, kind of left home, became a vegetarian, learned about good food, and understood the value and the magic of planting a seed. And I think that, it's a seed of a green bean, or it's really a seed of a project. And the kind of synergy that can happen that's demonstrated, and then how it brings people together, is probably been a big driving force for me, is to create beauty where I am and a sustainable kind of interrelated system. So here in Taos, we have an acequia system that brings the water from the mountains and irrigates our pastures. It's a very old system, and it's kind of broken down, and people have gotten away from where their food comes from, I think really all over, probably at least the US and many places in the world. And here, where it used to be a thriving, small, sustainable economy, with a lot of family gatherings, doing, growing corn and making chicos and a lot of tradition, instead people are separate from the earth. And I see that part of what we're suffering from, really probably almost my entire lifetime, but now it's really coming to a peak, is our disconnection from nature, our disconnection from that flow. Food is also, that makes it about the bees and the butterflies and about our practice. And so to share that knowledge with children and with other, teachers and families and bring back the tradition has been a really powerful point. And that includes seed sovereignty and preserving seeds and saving seeds. And so I came to New Mexico probably 35 years ago with 2 buckets of seeds and 2 little toddlers in my Volkswagen bus, and worked actually at the Sustainable Native Seed Institute. And
you did that before the Waldorf.
I did. So I started there, and I actually, as a young idealistic woman, would go around to the local families and in a way try to convince them that it was really valuable if they would start planting their fields again and saving the seeds and growing seeds that they, that we were preserving, that their grandparents had passed down to them. And, but I fell in love with the land here and the culture. And, now 35 years later, I am basically working in the schools with teaching agriculture, nutrition, planting school gardens, re-enlivening that connection with children. And then I think you mentioned, the Waldorf. I started a school here about 25 years ago. And so I really worked strongly with a Waldorf curriculum and with probably 160 families. And then I really felt if we could really establish, kind of reverent education, that would really be what would be the best gift for children. And then I began to realize after visiting Mexico, actually for a year, and working there at a Mexican Waldorf school and starting a CSA and being in the mountains with the monarch butterflies, that here in this country we have a really big responsibility because we have a lot of chemical farming that we now understand is really affecting our pollinators, our bees and our butterflies, and that we are responsible for so much of, I guess, in a way, the collapse of many of the systems. So I began to realize that here we have quite a hunger problem in New Mexico. I think it's like actually
You say it's the poorest state, the poorest nutrition, and the poorest education in the whole United States.
It is. I think it used to be second, and now I think it's first.
We've got to move up to first.
Yeah. So here, what I realized is that everybody's eating a USDA free lunch, but it's really in general made out of processed food that is industrial food, and it's not local food from, here, our fields, and we're at the top of the watershed with the mountains and the headwaters of the Rio Grande, and it seemed to me that children are not going to be able to learn and think critically and develop properly if they're eating GMO food and food that is with glyphosate and a lot of the things that we know are not healthy. And now it's not a question anymore. It's, it's out. Yeah. So I actually had started a farm-to-table restaurant to prove that we could be organic local, to save the butterflies and bees and make a market for local farmers. And in doing that, I then realized that I could start making lunches for charter schools and preschools, and that they could pay for the lunches with the USDA reimbursable money that they receive from the government. So it's a $3.28 reimbursable here. And in general, schools provide, they actually try to make money off of their lunch programs oftentimes, and they, buy a lot of industrial food and prepackaged food. And I do want to, in all fairness, say that there's a larger movement now in this country and that many communities are working towards this. And what I wanted to do was make a model that I could prove that we could do this, and then it could be replicated. Because, so out of my restaurant, we use, organic Yukon Gold potatoes and organic oil and flour from, a local farm that's, whole wheat and organic, and carrots that we actually grow with the children, and we really support our local farming network, and we're working on a farming ranching co-op to even grow more food. And so I'm working on making a program that's, that you can replicate. And we do about 700 meals a day and deliver a breakfast and lunch to a variety of schools that then are getting reimbursement from the USDA. So basically, it's kids that need a, free lunch program, and it's really a great food sovereignty moment for the farmers to grow directly for children in need rather than maybe a gourmet restaurant or a different.
Tell us about the gardens. Like you told me this summer, there's the program and the festival or the initiation will start next Monday.
That's right. Next Monday, we're going to have a seed ceremony at Enos Garcia Elementary. And that is a school that is one of our favorite schools to work at. And I do have to say the children there, it's also a free program, a free lunch school. And there's 87% immigrant families, 85% children are raised by their grandparents, and 1 out of 4 families have someone in prison. So we're working with a population there that, really can appreciate the support. And there is such a heartfulness and just a very welcoming energy that we work with there. So we have a garden there. It's at the Parr Field, and
the kids are part.
Yeah, the kids actually plant the garden. So we are going to take seeds that they grew last year. These are native seeds and heirloom seeds, and we're going to do a blessing with the seeds and with some soil and some water. And then we're going to plant the field, and we grow the Taos Pueblo blue corn and the Taos Pueblo red beans, and we grow, kale for smoothies and carrots for salad and for, just eating.
Will the grandparents or those who take care of the children, will they come also for the ceremony?
Well, we are inviting families, and we are having some representatives from, the tricultural area.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit hard sometimes to know who will come because there are transportation problems and also, working several jobs to make ends meet. But there are a number of grandparents who also volunteer at the school.
Really?
And they really recognize the work that we're doing. And it's really great to see them.
When you say they're not from here, where are they generally from? Mexico and then Central and South America?
Yes, we have a number of immigrant families here from Mexico. And New Mexico, of course, used to be Mexico.
Yeah, I know.
And there's a lot of connection here for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And New Mexico has a very strong Hispanic culture.
Right.
And a lot of the ways are very much in common from both sides of the border. So
tell us your dreams, because you had this as a vision to do. Tell us of your future dreams.
Well, okay, so I think I mentioned that we're doing a farmer-rancher co-op to really get more fields into production and build the local farming network and get that food directly into the entire school district. And we would really love to expand our education programs and actually there's 2 things. One is to have this beautiful space that we're in right now, which is a really old area where there used to be a lot of trading with the native people here. Mm-hmm. And it's an old homestead with like 100-year-old apple trees and pear trees, and they're blooming right outside the window. And we have a big garden here, and that's where the cafe is, where we cook all the meals. And that would be, this would be a lovely education center.
Yeah.
So that is one dream I'm trying to realize. But the other is to acquire a bus or a truck that would be able to take food into the neighborhoods, because there's many neighborhoods where there's not transportation, and especially in the summer, there's a lack of nutrition. And even during the school year for dinner, there are programs that we can get funding for that would make free dinner available. But there needs to be a transportation, and then you could pair that up with some education and do some tastings and demonstrations.
Do you find that people that are now almost their tradition is to eat junk food and almost to an addictive point of view? Do you find that by introducing whole, good, wholesome food that their taste buds will say, this tastes good, I want to eat this?
Well, absolutely. And of course, the younger you start,
Yeah.
we do our education once a week with K1-2 and then a tasting once a week in the cafeteria at the Enos Garcia School. But we did a green smoothie tasting with 550 even actual middle schoolers last week, and they loved the kale smoothie. And these are kids who don't have access, through.
What's in the kale smoothie?
So that's kale. It's kale and apple juice and local apples and sometimes bananas. They're not local, but they, can really. So we try to keep it simple with
and taste
things that they can really taste it, and they know that we grow kale in the garden. And so, and then we actually introduce that, and then we serve it for breakfast. So, but if you just serve kale smoothies without introducing it first, it's kind of this green stuff that kids were not really, as open to tasting. But we make it look so fun, and we show them all the things we're putting in, and they even get to push the button on the blender, and we have, all of the ingredients there, and they've been in the garden. So we do the tasting so that they accept the food, and once people touch the food, whether it's even if you're just have fresh vegetables, even if you're not growing them, but they participate in making a recipe, then they really kind of own that the energy with that, and they take the recipes home and replicate them with their families. And we have a child who brought home their kale smoothie recipe and got grandma interested, and now they're making them, and the dad has one every morning too. And so we're seeing that it's generational also.
Because kale is so easy to grow here. When we came back to the earthship, it was that high, and we're cutting and eating and cooking and everything. If we find the local things that grow easily here, then they can grow them too.
Well, that's right. And there's even traditional things like a calite, which is like the wild lamb's quarters, which grows almost everywhere around the country, and that's a wild food that you could also make, a calite or a wild spinach lamb's quarter smoothie. And I think that just to mention here there's a tradition of eating a lot of wild foods, which are frankly weeds, and they have such a good mineral content, and I feel that's also something we teach the children, so that they really can, view the whole nature, in relation.
And how are the teachers? Are they helping to participate?
The teachers are really excited about our projects. They are pushing. Now we have the school board on board, and we have the superintendent on board. We're kind of all coming together and really seeing how we can make this happen, because they see that if the children eat like sugar, like Fruit Loop bars and things for breakfast. And they don't do well, in their schoolwork, and then everything is based on testing. And so.
What is your message that you could give to other people all over the United States? And actually this podcast goes all over the world. Because so many times people want to help in Cambodia. They want to help here, they want to help there. And the message to me now is, what can you do locally? What can you do to help your community? Because if everyone helps their communities, that's how the whole thing gets changed. What would you say to somebody, say a young person, they're out of college, I want to help in my community, I want to help in Detroit, I want to help in New York City, I want to help in East LA. Where would you tell them to start? Well, I say to find what your gift is, if you can, and otherwise you can, anybody can grow something. I happen to be really about food because I believe that that's a direct way to influence someone. And here it brings the communities together. The tricultural community that have a hard time agreeing on anything else can all agree on, say, feeding their children. And I think that the other thing is to realize that if you can dream it up and really work towards that, we don't wait for grants or wait for, support. What do they call it? An NGO. We don't wait for all the right papers to proceed in the board. No, we push ahead with our projects, and then when people see our results,
we have become more and more successful that way. And anybody can replicate, actually, because we just right now happen to have in the U.S. the USDA school lunch program. These kind of projects can happen anywhere. And the one thing I would say is that to really engage with people and engage with, don't be afraid to reach out to the people in your community. And you can make a difference, because people want to have a positive feeling about the future. And the other thing is, I would like to just make a moment here to say that, the way that you were able to support me last fall by having yoga classes, and without even really having met me, but knowing the work I was doing, you were building really a circle of support for the project. And you were also modeling to the other people how you can make a difference. Like, even maybe someone who's a yoga teacher says, well, how can I help feed the world? But you are changing the world through yoga. And then by even a further example, you're showing that by people gifting their money, right, that you can support a project. Right. And I just want to say that gift was so meaningful to me, because it wasn't just... It
came from many
people. It was so many people.
It'd be like if somebody was a yoga teacher in LA and they knew there was a food program already started in East LA where nutrition is maybe not as bad as here, but not good. Junk food is everywhere. Addiction is everywhere. And they start feeding the kiddie on their volunteer classes, and then, right, it could be done. In many different ways. And I think then, I know you mentioned that maybe we have a summer program and we're going to be doing some gardening, that maybe you'll come and do some yoga. Absolutely. With the children. And like 10 minutes before they start the gardening, or 10 minutes of meditation on the seeds, right, prayers on the seeds. There's so much. And for me, I love working with the children and the youth, because they're so receptive, and their heads aren't cemented on yet.
That's right.
And they're open to see maybe what's really truth, because they're not caught in old thinking. To say that what you're doing can spark ideas to people all over the world, because there's always a need, and like you said, a common denominator is food. And it used to always be that people sat together, they ate together. That was community. And now, I'll tell you one funny little story. I was on the freeway in LA with he's a saint from India, and we had brought him over to speak and travel. And he watched somebody next to the freeway eating his Big Mac while he was driving. And so Swamiji said, "What was that man doing?" I said, "Sir, a lot of people eat on the go. They get fast foods, they eat while they're in their car, they eat while, they always say, shall we grab lunch? Or let's get something to go now." And even in China, where we teach in Beijing and Hangzhou, they don't cook at home, the kids. They order out. They're always eating out of paper containers while they're walking or while they're sitting. And that whole community of eating together, it brings a whole different feeling and community. And it doesn't have to be your blood family. It can be your whole family extension of everyone. And I think that what you're doing is amazing, and I think it's only just begun. And I think more people that hear about it, who say, what can I do to help change the world? If they're in this area, I say, see Micah, she will tell you what to do, right?
That's right. And honestly, what I found is that once someone sees it's possible, it's very contagious. And so I really make a point of offering my help to anybody who would like to get started, because we all have the same components no matter where we live. And sometimes it can inspire people to have, in a way, meet someone who's actually seeing it work in their community. I really saw that, when I was working in Mexico.
You have to have that living example. But I also really feel in my heart the way for that joy. And joy is different than happiness. I learned that from His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu when they wrote that book. Happiness is circumstantial. One day happy, next day not happy. He left me, I bought a new pair of shoes. Happy, happy, not happy. Joy runs deep inside, and nothing can change that. And I think for people to arrive at that place, a big component, we call it seva, is you're here on earth, and I truly believe it, to help other people. Because otherwise, what's the point? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Just spending a lot of time before you can die? Getting a lot of money for what? We're finding more and more in this age, things do not make us happy. And so I do believe that if people could start these programs or add to somebody already doing, I see joy from this, not from the olden way. The olden way is the Piscean way. You know, when I grew up in the 50s, or the 40s and the 50s, we had gone through World War I, the Depression, World War II, Korean War. Nobody wanted to even say the word God. Nobody wanted to even think about helping anyone. It's me. Rightfully so. There were so many inventions that had never come out. New refrigerators, new freezers, new washing machines. We never questioned materialism in the 50s and even in the 60s till 1969 came and the Beatles came. And we rebelled against the whole thing. We said we're not going to be like our parents. Materialism is not it. And that's when we became hippies. And that's when this whole new era started 50 years ago, 55 years ago. And now we're seeing all over the world, people are knowing happiness, joy is to help other people. But rather than being way over there, just in your own home, you're in your own city, in your own regions, and that's why you're a living example of that. You could stay down in Mexico. Maybe I'll go back to Mexico. You could have gone to Asia.
There's a lot of work to do
You could have started all that. But you inspired other people to continue that work. Mm-hmm. And so you building a model here, then you can set it down in other places. And I see you in the future having some school, maybe not an institute, where you'll teach other people how you can replicate it according to your environment, to your people's needs.
Right. I really feel is teaching teachers, and actually it's learning together. Anymore, it's not really top-down information.
No.
And it's also learning from nature. Right now, we really need to listen. We need to listen to each other. There's a synergy that happens when we come together. And the young people have even a different connection, a stronger connection in a way to the plants and the earth and to working together. And so there's I'm very inspired by all the young people now that are really connected and really want to participate. And so,
I think in some ways they're much more connected than we are because they're coming at a different period. They come with a different energy. Their reincarnation is more close to what's really real than ours. Mm-hmm. And to get them in those formative years to remember who they are by putting their hands in the dirt and by growing, and it's revolutionary what you're doing. I don't know if you see the big picture. I do.
Well, thank you for that recognition and that acknowledgement. Just the seeing actually really is, it's like it opens my heart and it creates more energy for my work. Because I feel that sometimes it's a lot to keep everything growing, and keep everything going. But I really believe that we are here working together, and it's really the love of my life. To be able to be of service, and
I can feel it because you're not a martyr, and you smile and you laugh and you have stories. No, we have to get joy in what we do because why do it? And be the living example of that because otherwise people won't want to do what you're suggesting they do.
Right.
And I'd like to make a commitment for this vehicle that you're going to investigate what kind. And when we start teaching yoga, which is soon over the summer months, and I'm also teaching at a 6 weeks course at Shri. And all that money will go back to the program. And then maybe other teachers will say, I'll give it. And then we'll have this school bus by the time fall starts.
Well, fantastic. And now I just had another idea, though.
What?
We might have to, now that I was really thinking like how we have to make decisions now as if it's the future. Yeah. And we might have to have a pedal-powered bus or a...
Electric? Do they make electric buses?
Like a solar-generated
Do they have them? We'll check it out.
I think we're going to have to do some investigating so that we can be an example.
Maybe there's an electric bus now.
Yeah.
And we could connect to the solar panels.
I can see that we could be a dangerous pair here.
Dangerous but fun. Dangerous but yes. Okay, I think we'll sign off, but I'd like you to close with some parting words.
Well, I'd like to say right now that there is so much beauty around us where we are, with each other, with our hearts, with the nature, to really hold that and try to take that in and spread that where you are. And that a seed, find a seed somewhere. There's seeds outside. You can find a seed anywhere and plant that seed. And actually, plant it soon. Plant it this week. It's really still the spring.
Yeah.
And, it's that nurturing energy that will bring that seed forward. And seeds are so intelligent that they hold so much information, and they can help us see our way into the future. And so I think I'm just going to say that.